Hello. Can everyone hear me? Mic's fine? All right, cool. So yeah, I'm going to talk about the platform engineering journey, and it's a semi-personal thing and a personal or versus organizational thing. We'll get there in the end. The talk was done yesterday because I have ADHD and I can't finish stuff properly before I do it, apparently. So I just kind of threw something together, threw it over again, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll see if it's done. If at any time anyone has any particular questions, feel free to just yell them out, more or less. And we'll try to get there within the time limit, which is also potentially a problem. Anyway, so my name is Robert. I work as a principal cloud engineer at Mr. 42. We do platform engineering and security. That's the very quick pitch on that. But more, in line with this conference, I am a CNCF ambassador, and I am active in the CNCF and the tag app delivery space. And more particular to this talk, I am one of the co-chairs of the platform working group. Yeah, I do a lot of things. So feel free to go to LinkedIn and see what I'm up to at any point in time. So this is going to be based on, some of the things I'm going to talk about is going to be based on real stories, but I might alter some details, might alter some names, might not mention who said what, because I don't want to step on anyone's toes, because all of a sudden something just drops out. So I'll try not to mention names, but it's all real. So before my previous career before this was a musician. AKA I was unemployed for 10 years. So it's not a great career to go into, to be honest. So at some point I figured out I need to get a career, and everyone's basically just told me you know a lot about computers, you should do this computer thing, right? Well, it turns out I had no clue what I was getting into. I randomly landed a job within IT and quickly figured out that there's a lot of stuff going on there. So I needed to learn a lot. So learning curve, basically, the hockey stick curve, that was it. But I was lucky enough to just land a job where there were 4 people in the company, 2 were apprentices, and 2 were the other 2 were the CEO and CTO, both doing technical stuff. The CTO had been a Microsoft certified trainer for 20 years. So, have no clue what's going on, but I landed in a place where people actually knew how to teach and everything like that. So I was very lucky. Let's see if I can get the thing to work. There you go. So I quickly learned a couple of things, and I started, considering myself a system administrator, getting to the point where I figured out that, manual tasks takes time, so I need to automate stuff. Like I said, manual task takes time. Time is money. I was working in a small company. I was still getting paid by the government. Like I was I didn't get a salary there. The idea was if I can make my own customers and get money in, I can get a salary. So obviously I wanted to get bill as many hours as possible. Automation became a thing that kind of was there to me, like getting as much done as quickly as possible. And I quickly also learned that CLI can be as quick as clicking, because a lot of people get that kind of fear of, they see this black box, now it's black anymore, you can have all sorts of colors. And what command should I write, et cetera, but as soon as I kind of landed in the CLI space, I quickly figured out that clicking doesn't mean that it's going to be quicker. So, and after a while, I started learning that good code can be even quicker. You can get a lot more done if you write code. So that's kind of where I started looking into programming and all those kind of things. And later on, a couple jobs later on, I kind of landed in the DevOps space, which a lot of people tend to do, where I started getting more developer practices, getting the stuff into Git. Obviously, the first step you need to learn. Learn about how to do common practices across domains, and in general, just learn about the collaboration culture, which is DevOps. This is still something that's going on, but now we have this thing called platform engineering, which I feel is a natural evolution of basically IT ops. And it is basically the modern IT operations. I think there are buzzwords, obviously, that come and go, but I feel that platform engineering is one that should stick. It is the next natural evolution of IT ops. And the idea behind platform engineering is to abstract away complexities, give people the chance to do what they are hired to do. I saw Eric ask for show of hands. I can probably ask as well, because there might be change in the audience. Who here is a developer? All right, so most people here. Usually I end up talking to mostly ops people, so this is kind of fun. And basically platform engineering is for you. That's the idea, right? Not to overrun developers with tasks that probably you don't have time to do. And it's about product mindset. The idea of treating the developers, you guys in this case, as customers of this overall platform, and not be the sitting on each on islands throwing rocks at each other type mentality that used to be between IT ops and development. And full stack developers have enough on their plate already. This is probably a very accurate thing. I'm sure a lot of you feel this. If you're supposed to do back-end and front-end at the same time, that's hard enough. But if you're supposed to do automation, security, integration, et cetera, it just gets weird. No one can be really good at all those things. Some people do. There's obviously someone who can do that. But most people, you get a cognitive overload by getting so much thrown at you. Before I get to the actual platform engineering side, I just want to mention this one. The platform engineering is not DevOps 2.0. DevOps is still alive and well. It still exists. It's still a thing. We all should do DevOps. DevOps is not a particular set of skills. That is one of the things that I think kind of threw us, under a bus for a little while there, with the advent of DevOps, and then people starting to have these DevOps roles, like a DevOps engineer. Again, makes no sense. I tend to think of DevOps engineers like calling a car mechanic a power tool operator. It is technically true. You use power tools, but other people are also using power tools. That's not a role. That is a way to do your job. So I'm glad to see DevOps engineer roles going away. That's great. That means people actually understand what they're talking about. But now we're getting this platform engineering thing. And if you take a quick step back, I quote this a lot because it's still true today, even though it was written in 1967. I'm really glad Melvin don't monetize this quote, because I would, lose a lot of money, because I use this basically in all my slides. But Conway's Law, I'm sure many of you have heard about it, but if you haven't, the idea is that Melvin Conway, in a research paper in 1967, talked about how the organizational structure mimics the way that you build and run a system. And this is before any modern IT ops things, right? But it still holds true today. If you have one giant team that's supposed to do a platform, be the platform team, which people usually did, it basically just IT ops again. It tends to become like a big monolith, right? Hard to get stuff in, hard to get stuff out, how to cooperate with. If you have certain people that are solely responsible for certain things, they probably are not as open for ideas and suggestions. But if you have a collaborative culture where everyone kind of owns a little piece of all things, it becomes much easier. So with Conway's Law, we got something we call reverse Conway maneuver, where you look at the system and the thing, or how you want to structure your organization, and kind of you mimic the system that you want to create in the organizational structure. Because we have these, what I call abstraction layers. Again, before, let's see if this pointer works. Oh, there you go. So before you have the end user thing that we always had, people have to use your stuff. You have your physical infrastructure at the end there. Usually someone else do that now, right? Because of the cloud. Great. But then you have the applications and services and the public cloud section. And the idea was a couple of years ago that if you are developing an application, you were supposed to use this public cloud section, use the tool specifically. What happened is that everyone has to find their architecture, everyone has to kind of learn how all these tools work. There's a lot of overhead just like jumping into public cloud without no plan, which is what people did. With platform engineering, the idea is to have a team that specializes on the public cloud and making a new abstraction layer, making a platform where the developer doesn't need to necessarily say, I need to have this service, but they need to have this capability. So, platform engineering, abstract away complexities, aim to reduce cognitive load, and I like to think secure by default. That is not necessarily true, but I think you should at least try to make it secure by default. Again, because the people who are using your platform don't necessarily need to see the security. It doesn't need to stop them from doing a thing. And it's the platform as a product mindset. So again, you have a product, you have customers, in this case, a platform and developers. If the developers need a functionality, just imagine going to someone who creates a product and you say, well, I think this needs this feature, and the people who create the product go like, oh no, you don't want that. We decide what you want. Like you wouldn't like that. That doesn't fly, right? It's the same thing here. If a developer comes in and say, we need to do unstructured SQL databases, you don't say, well, no, you don't because you have SQL. So, you have a database, just deal with it, right? So the idea is that you should treat your developers as clients, and if that doesn't necessarily mean that if people come and say, we want this, you go, oh yeah, sure, we'll fix it. Then you have another problem, right? You don't have enough time to make everyone happy. So there needs to be a process there on what to choose. But again, that you shouldn't just tell people that no, you're not getting it. And we in the platforms working group created a platform white paper, the CNCF platform white paper. If you haven't read it, please do. It is really good. I say that because I have basically nothing to do with it, so everyone else did a good job. But we try to define what a platform is, and we try to do it by, again, a lot of these concepts have been around in the community for a while, but a lot of people, if you ask like 10 people what a platform looks like, you get 10 different answers. So we split it to two piles, so to speak, a interface and capabilities section. And again, the interface is not a set in stone thing. It's not like if you're doing platform engineering, you need to do this one thing. A platform can be a wiki page that says run these commands and you have the thing that you need. It can be that. It's not really mature. It's not really the most like awesome platform ever. But if that works with your team, that's perfectly fine. Probably should strive for more though. So you can also create your own APIs, your own CLI tools. You could use something like Backstage if you want to have a portal, or you can create your own portal. And the interface can also be just simply modules and templated solutions that people just pull in and then run. That is fine too. And then we have the capabilities. Everything from infrastructure and data messaging, the things that we have here as environment and resources. You can see there's a lot of CNCF products on this slide. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to use that. It's obviously because this comes from the CNCF, so we kind of wanted to put something in there to make it relatable to people. But you have the environments and resources part of this, and then you have all the other things, for instance, observability that Eric just talked about. How do you get secrets into your workloads? How do you interface with that? how do you scan, how do you secure, how do you do policies, all those kind of things. But when you start looking at this, it becomes kind of a big, chunk of things to do, right? If you look at this and look at this as a roadmap, you're using this wrong. This is just a representation to describe what a platform, what kind of capabilities and what kind of interfaces you can have with your platform. One of the things we discussed in the platform's white paper, I was about to say, don't go for the buzzword bingo whack-a-mole thing, where you hear that people are doing certain things and then just feel like that's what you should do. Again, if you use Backstage and you see that Spotify created it, and then you see Spotify has a way of structuring teams, and you're 5 people, you probably don't need squad and tribes and so on and so forth, right? You don't necessarily have to implement something, all right? Don't implement service mesh unless you need service mesh, or at least know what service meshes are. That's a good start. So just because there's a lot of options, don't necessarily just throw it in there. That becomes just a messy platform. Messy platforms are not good platforms. So the idea is that, and I think this is basically stolen from Team Topologies, a good book that everyone should read, the idea of this thinnest viable platform. So now I had a slide in between that I forgot, so if I go 2 back, thank you. So if you look at this, and you sit down with your developers and your operation team and your architects and everyone that needs to be involved, and you go through this and think, like, what do we need to get stuff up and running? You might need some templating. You might need some of the infrastructure parts, maybe not everything. Maybe you need one of these other boxes, but it's very easy because it's just the operator that you install, et cetera, et cetera. What is the thinnest platform you can create that is still useful? So that is the idea behind the thinnest viable platform. That it's the thinnest at the point that you're setting out to do it, right? So this is just to get the minimum of capabilities that you need to get your stuff done. That will evolve over time, but don't just throw everything, at a cloud vendor and go like, all right, we got a platform. That's not going to help you in any way, form, or fashion. So after Platform's white paper, we created the Platform's maturity model, which I was a little bit more involved with, luckily. And we have different aspects here. We have everything from investment to adoption, et cetera, et cetera. The idea here is to try to describe again, a platform engineering journey or a platform journey. This is not a scoring system. Like if you don't think that you need to get all the way to the right side, this is what we consider from least to most mature in each of these aspects. And this is version 1.0. We version everything that we do. So obviously there's going to be updates and so on and so forth. But from an investment side, if you are basically just a bunch of people and you say, we want to create a platform, and you kind of have to do it ad hoc, that's not very mature. You need to have the company to support you, and you need to get all the stakeholders involved. You need to have some sort of backing to get stuff up and running in a good fashion. You could create a decent platform just by ad hoc. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's, it's going to tear on people, right? I really like the presentation from Uber and just seeing how mature their platform is. And they became mature really quickly. And that's because Uber became a big thing and had a lot of money and kind of attracted a lot of tech talent. And you could get a lot of stuff done really quickly in a decent fashion. Most people don't work at companies like Uber. I'm pretty sure most don't work at companies like Uber. And you usually, start off at the technologist wants to create a platform, and you kind of have to push it back and forth and probably write some business cases and stupid stuff like that. But if you're lucky and you're working at a place where you have people like to say top-down and bottom-up approaches. I don't like the polarities. I think it's a middle thing always. It needs to be bottom-up because people need to want to be involved and create something. But also, it's not if the top is not with you, you're not getting anywhere, right? So moving on the investment side from left to right here to getting to somewhere where you have an enable ecosystem where people easily can get stuff done. And same on the adoption side. It might be a certain team that's onboarded that does things. People might be creating, these town hall meetings around certain tooling, et cetera, et cetera. But the more you get to the right side here, the better. On the interfaces, this is where, again, you don't necessarily need to level up. If you are, for instance, on the operational side and you have standard tooling and you're, again, 10 people in the entire company and everyone's happy with that, free to stay there. You don't need to create more than that. You don't necessarily need to create self-service stuff. You don't necessarily need to do all these things. But from a platform perspective, if you look at it a little bit objectively, it's more mature the more, you get to a full-on solution. Again, like Uber kind of has. Uber has a portal you go into. You don't necessarily go in and put in code to get a new environment. You say, I want a new environment, and stuff kind of just pops off, and it shows, what the process is, and so on and so forth. But if you are a small team and you get stuff done, getting stuff done is always a priority, right? And the same with operations. You don't necessarily need to have a big team that does specifically platform stuff. But obviously, the bigger you are, and big is kind of relative, having a team or set of teams that's dedicated to doing operations is probably going to help. You have a question?
Yes. If you had to choose between roles, which of them do you think would be the one that drives maturation the most towards the right? In roles, because I can clearly see that some of those roles can affect the other ones.
Yes. And they are kind of written as such, as they are affecting each other. And I think that there's not a singular answer to that, because again, it kind of depends. I think at this point I've trademarked it, it depends. But
most likely.
Well, most people, and usually this comes from a tech side of things, so from a bottom-up perspective. So usually it is like new technologies and those kind of things that kind of drive the innovation part of it. So I'm gonna say, well, it's kind of hard because these are all written, but again, adoption is probably the one that is more than likely, because again, people want to use stuff. People are making their kind of communities around certain things. If you are at the company and people start using, for instance, Terraform, that quickly becomes a thing people talk about, like how did you solve that? And if you don't, knowledge share, then it's just usually at a standstill. So I think that one is pretty important. But at the same time, like investment can really kickstart things off. If you have a really mature, leader of that particular section that will start creating a platform that really wants this up and running, that usually kicks things off pretty quickly, right? And I think most tech people just, they want to see these kind of things done, and it's a nice challenge. So it's not the typical top-down decision where people go like, oh no, crap, I have to do this thing, right? So I guess it depends. Yeah, and measurement, obviously, if you can't measure your things, you have no clue what's going on. It's that simple. It's one of those things where, especially if you don't consider, if you're thinking about it's both the top down and bottom up. If you get stuff running on a technical side, like the people that are actually doing the work might see that, yeah, this is kicking off stuff. But at the same time, you probably have some sort of manager that kind of prioritizes what people are supposed to do. And they could listen to you when you say, this is a useful, useful for me, a useful time for me to spend on this thing. But again, the less technical savvy the leaderships are, they want something that says, oh, this is giving us something, right? So measuring it is really a really nice thing to do. So I would urge people to go in and look at the maturity model. It was released during KubeCon. And the platform's white paper was released right before KubeCon Amsterdam. So we probably need to deliver something for Paris, and there's always room for more people in the platforms working group. People have started creating a platform as a product white paper. So if that type of thinking interests you and you want to contribute to something, that is a good one to do. So again, we define what a platform is. We kind of set what a platform maturity journey looks like, so to speak. And now we're deep diving into topics like why should you do platforms as a product and what do you get out of it, right? So to summarize, I'm probably ahead of time a little bit. The world runs on software. The further we evolve, the harder it gets. Adopting DevOps should be mandatory. That's my thing. Everyone needs to do DevOps. DevOps is not a tool set. It's a culture. Platform engineering as a whole. No. Natural evolution of IT operations. Product-centric approach. Reduce cognitive load. If this is what you got out of this, that's great. We had some hands-on stuff with Uber. There's going to be more platform engineering things later on, and a lot of topics intertwined here. So go look at the other speakers there. You can find me on social medias. I'm all over the place. I'm still going to call it Twitter. Just refuse to go with the time there. And feel free to use the feedback QR code and say how much do you love this or not. I don't know. All right? Any questions? Oh, one all the way up there.
What was the book you mentioned for the finished viable product?
Team topologies.
Team topology.
Yes, it is. I've been talking about team topologies for many years, and I usually have a slide with the book and everything like that. I just feel at a certain point I probably shouldn't. I'm promoting the book more than the people who wrote it. But for some reason, I've done it for many years, and I still go. So has everyone read Team Topologies? Expecting everyone to go yes. And for some reason, it's just like 3 in the audience. So read Team Topologies is a great book. It explains a lot about how we should structure our teams to do better. There's a lot of concepts that do platform engineering basically kind of stole from that, which is good because no one sued us. So read that book. Any more questions? I don't know why I'm pointing with this. There you go.
The microphone here.
Oh.
I think I can talk.
Yeah, you talk loud. It's fine.
We actually implemented some parts of platform engineering, like the process of it. And one of the issues that is really basic is actually communication between all the individual parties.
Yep.
To the data center. So actually getting that coherence out of that, it doesn't come natural.
No. There's nothing natural about collaborating apparently. That is a struggle, and that's always been a struggle.
Yeah,
I'll repeat the question. So basically the gist of it is implemented platform engineering, some aspect, but teams are having issues communicating and collaborating. That is a culture thing, and culture is the hardest part of working in IT because it's not an easy technical thing, right? If you need to monitor something, there's 1,000 things that can monitor a thing. You just find what you prefer, and then you implement it, and it's going to work, right? But culture is not a technical implementation thing, and it's a human thing, and we are all individuals, and we all have certain quirks. I have plenty, and it gets tough. I've been at some. I work with some clients where they've implemented stuff like town hall meetings, like they created a platform, and then they have a platform town hall meetings where the developers and users of the platform come in and they sit for a couple hours just talking about, I think the latest one was like, we want to do secrets better. how do you want to experience getting secrets into your applications? Like stuff like that. Getting people to talk about the pain points and all those kind of things. And if you talk about pain points and you all experience them, you can cry a little, and then you can try to find like a solution that works. Again, it's about having a product mindset. The developers are supposed to use this. They're supposed to, as if they were paying you to use this thing. If they have a complaint, it should be taken seriously. But getting that culture thing is tough. It is. I don't have a solution for that except keep trying. Keep trying.
We have another question over here.
Oh.
Hi. Maybe this is something that the working group is looking into or should look into, but do you have any go-to most important things to start measuring when you're starting out?
We don't have anything in particular, but there are several things that you could start looking into. And I think most of the people in the platform's working group also refer to them, stuff like the DORA metrics and those kind of things. We don't necessarily try to reinvent wheels and stuff like that, but at some point, there's probably going to be more content on those specifics and what you can choose between and what you can look for. While some of that is, I showed just the table of the maturity model, there's also every single aspect there has its own columns with a lot of information. So if you go and look at the platform maturity model, you're probably going to find a lot of hints as to how to do that. But we don't have anything like directly against like measuring growth or equivalence. But it's a good point. I'll try to remember it.
Do we have more questions? One last question. Come on.
Anyone.
Going once.
It doesn't necessarily have to be about platform engineering. I know stuff about gaming, weird music stuff.
Well, we will have you on a panel later today, so maybe
Yeah.
if you have anything, just come talk to us during the day, and we will bring some of those questions up during the panel as well.
Yeah.
Yep. So thank you to Robert. Please give him a round of applause.
Okay.